Hi everyone, I'm Karen Duke, Spruce Grove, Alberta, and I've got a new technique that I want to show you today. This is a really good way to use up your odds and ends and scraps of paper. I got the idea from Bertucci in Australia. So here's two cards that I did already. This one I used the floral paper, a little bit of pink, some melon mambo, one of our new dies. This one I used a totally different combination, but the same grouping of paper, and they both turned out good. So today I'm going to be using the Ornate Garden papers. This is a new release that's only available until the end of the month, and then it will be in the new catalog. I love the flowers, I love the colors. There's some gold in there. These pieces coordinate with the terracotta tile. But if you look at the reverse, we've got the melon mambo, the old olive, and a brand new color, bumblebee. So that'll be coming out in the next catalog. So what I've done is I've started with a larger scrap of paper, and I'm going to use my paper cutter. In this case, I'm using the Early Espresso, and I've run it through the embossing folder. I like to start out with a larger piece than my 5.5 by 4 1/4. So all I'm going to do is just randomly cut some shapes. And I've done that ahead of time with some of the different patterns from that paper. So what I'm going to do now, I've got my 5.5 by 4 1/4 scrap of cardstock. I always like to start out with a larger piece because we are going to be trimming it down. I've got all my little wedges of the different colors. I like using the green liquid glue just because it gives me a little bit of positioning time. If you put your glue in the center, it means you can work at both ends and you're not going to get your fingers all sticky. So I'm just going to start at one end, and I'm going to leave a little bit. These I ran through the embossing folder. I also like to make sure I alternate the wide ends. So if I've got the wide end down here, on the next one I put the wide end up there. And these strips are totally random. There is absolutely no rhyme and reason. And the same thing, when you go to lay them down, I'm leaving a little bit of a border in between. I'm going to put a little bit of gold with this one. And again, I'm alternating the strips. You can do it with some sort of a pattern in mind if you like, but I'm just totally random. You know, I usually do 4 at a time, only because if I'm going to get everything out and make a mess, I might as well get 4 cards done instead of 1. So if I take my full sheet of Early Espresso and I cut it down into my 4 1/4 by 5.5, I've got 4 pieces. I've got all my scraps that I have cut out. So basically I can just keep going and going until I have all of these pieces layered across. The Early Espresso isn't going to show as much on there, but I'm quite all right with that. I'll take another piece. If you take a look at this terracotta tile, I actually ran it through the embossing folder. So that way I've got a little bit of texture. You could totally do one of these cards just using all different textures. You could do it in neutrals, you could do it so many ways to play around with this. And really and truly, there is no right and no wrong. Play around and you'll get something totally different every time. So I'm just going to put a couple more strips on here. Let's go this one. And again, I'm only putting the glue in the middle. That way my fingers aren't getting all covered with glue. So when I'm done this, I've got decent clean hands. I'll put another brown strip in here. And remember, I'm alternating the wide end and the narrow end. And then that way it's not going to look like it's off balance when I'm done. So with that last piece, I'm not fussy on whether it goes over the edge or not. So what I like to do is just turn it over, give everything a good press to make sure it's glued down. So I know when these cards are done, I want to end up with 5 by 3 3/4, so I can layer it onto my cardstock. So what I'm going to do now is bring in my paper cutter. I'm going to start with a square edge. So I know that this edge is square. And I'm going to trim that edge. Now, I know that I want this to be 3 3/4. So I'm going to line that up there. That gives me my 3 3/4 by 5. So now I've got a nice finished piece that doesn't look like I had all those little edges hanging out. Now I can play around. Do I want to mount it on a piece of terracotta tile? Do I want to put it on a piece of early espresso? Maybe I want to put some gold in between there. Then I can start playing around. In this new package that's out until the end of the month, we have some gorgeous, gorgeous new dies. I could run a die through, in the right color of course, put that on top. I could do something like that. We have a really, really pretty new embossing folder. If you go to stampingup.com or if you go to karenduke.stampingup.net, you can bring up the flyer. The flyer shows you the new dies, the new stamp sets, the new embossing folder. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Just quick and easy. This is my first video, and if you know me, you know how much it took to get me to try this. So enjoy it. Leave me any comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.